All right, welcome to the SnydeReport podcast. I am your host, Gary Snyder. Before we get to our guest, I need to remind you of our awesome sponsors. That would be Robin Winston, does a great job of sponsoring our newsletter that goes out to over 100,000 subscribers every morning. And also former Congresswoman Jill Long Thompson does a great job of helping us out, both on the newsletter and the podcast. Also, her book, Across the Aisle, Why Bipartisanship Works for America, is out. You can get that on Amazon or anywhere they sell books. My guest today, probably, I don't know, are you better known for being attacked by JD Vance or other things? But it's Fred Wellman, host of On Democracy. Welcome, Fred.
Welcome. It's good to see you, brother. I'm glad to have you. Glad to be here. Sorry.
So just take a minute. Tell us about being attacked by JD Vance personally.
Well, I've been in this fight for a while. If you know my past, I joined the fight years ago, but specifically when I joined the Lincoln Project as the senior advisor for Veterans Affairs in 2020, I kind of got in the deep end right then. And then I became the executive director when everything went kind of crazy after the election. So, we had Oppo drops. We had mailers being done about us to our entire zip code by Kushner. Jared Kushner was paying for it. So I've been in the deep end for a little bit. You kind of get used to it. And I didn't even notice that JD Vance had been trying to drag me on Twitter. That's how little I pay attention to this stuff now. Because it's just another day, and I was out shopping with my fiance and I got a text message from my friends at the Midas Touch Network, where one of my show on Democracy goes, and they're like, "Hey, you're making friends, huh?" I honestly, when I looked at it first, they sent me a screenshot. I thought it was a meme because I had ratioed him on Twitter the day before, and I sat down to eat with my fiance, and I looked at it again. I was like, "Wait a minute, I think JD Vance tweeted me," and I looked at online, and you gotta laugh. It's just these guys think it's so important that you're getting dragged. Like, dude, you have to care. Do you know what I'm saying? It's like, it doesn't affect my personal life. I've got security. I was doxxed 3 times last year. Let's see. Mike Flynn sued me for $150 million for one tweet. It's like, oh, wow, JD Vance said mean things about me on the internet. Oh, this is the end of my life. Who cares? It's just, these guys are idiots, man.
It sounds pretty crazy, but when you get into this, and I've been at it, I was on the regular radio for 4 years, and the amount of people that come after you, especially on the peaceful right, if you will.
Right. I mean, I had guys outside after Flynn sued me. He doxed me. He put my address in the lawsuit, and I was furious. His address wasn't, but mine was. It was on purpose. They do these things on purpose.
Right.
And I had a couple of times where there was guys parked outside my house, and the cops had to come chase them off. And I'm like, come on, I was in the Army for 22 years. It's like, I think they think libs don't have Second Amendment rights and use them, but I assure you, I have Second Amendment rights, and I'm well aware of them. I was an Army officer for 22 years. I have plenty of guns. If you want to knock on my door, great, come on by.
I was enlisted.
Missouri's a stand your ground state, so see how that works out for you.
What'd you do in the Army?
I started off as an aviator. I spent good portion of my career as a helicopter pilot. I did scouts in Desert Storm. I was a Black Hawk Battalion operations officer for Iraq 1. And then during Iraq 1, it's kind of a funny story. I got on TV quite a bit. That's a story. And after I made the anchor cry on TV one day, the General Petraeus was like, "You should be a spokesman." I'm like, okay. And so when we got back from Iraq, I became a public affairs officer. And I spent the last 6 years of my career doing that.
Okay.
And I was a spokesman for a couple of famous generals. I did 2 more Iraq tours that way. So yeah, it was an interesting career.
I signed up, joined right after Desert Storm started.
Oh,
and I wasn't even out of Fort Benning yet, and it was over.
Oh, yeah.
I did National Guard time. And did time
I went
with
downrange.
the 10th Mountain.
Yeah.
So
I was 24th ID guy.
Infantry.
Oh, there you go. I went to Ranger School. They used to let aviators go to Ranger School, so I did Ranger School in '93. And so it's kind of funny because a lot of these alpha, these MAGA guys will try to like drag you, like, oh, you're a pogue. I'm like, oh yeah, man. When'd you get your Ranger tab? They're like, what do you mean? Like, oh, I got my Ranger tab in 93. And there's nothing better than an infantry guy. For those who understand veteran talk, the Ranger school is a pretty elite school. It's
right.
It's washout rates like 93% of people don't pass. And for the most, they go back and forth over the years, letting infantry or non-infantry go to the school. And because it's a leadership school. And I went as a captain. I was a senior guy when I went. And it's pretty funny. They think they're all badasses, but an infantry guy, especially an officer who doesn't have his Ranger tab, is really kind of like Pete Hegseth. Pete Hegseth doesn't have his Ranger tab. He's never been anything. He's never been special forces, special ops. So what does he do? Every time he visits a base, he has to do workouts with the special ops guy. It's like cosplay.
The whole administration right now is cosplay. You got
that's it. That's it, right. It's exactly right.
I mean, it's literally a cosplay administration.
Yeah, it's just pictures and propaganda videos and trying to look cool. But, they understand, let's be honest, they understand the authoritarian mindset that that visuals matter. I mean, Hitler knew this, everybody knows that. It's like this. And frankly, if we're being very honest, the Dems need to understand that. That's one of my frustrations with the Democratic Party. It's my frustration with Joe Biden. Biden never understood the power of the presidency and the visuals of the presidency being present, right? And I had a guest on my show not long ago. You'll have to forgive me. It was a congressman from it was Ben Wickler. Sorry, Wisconsin Democrat chair Ben Wickler. And Ben Wickler was on my show, and he was talking about when I think Tony Evers ran for governor, and Evers ran saying, "I'm going to fix the roads. That's my thing. I'm going to fix the roads." And so he won by like 1%, and then he went out and fixed all the freaking roads. I mean, he did it. And then what he did, after fixing the roads, he visited every county in Wisconsin, every county, with a list of the roads he fixed. And then he went to the roads. He went to the ribbon cuttings. He went to the shovel breaks. And he said, look, I said I was going to fix the roads. Here's your road that I just fixed. Stood there. He won the second time by 3 points. So visuals matter. Unfortunately, the Republicans get it better than we do.
And it's unfortunate because it drives me nuts that you see, even in Indiana, we have Jim Banks, just a horrible, horrible person.
Terrible person.
But he understands the optics. He understands that winning at all costs gets you into power. And once you have that power, it's hard to get someone for you to relinquish it.
Yeah. And you have to use the power, which is also a problem with the Democrats. I actually had a conversation with this Senator Andy Kim the other day. I said, we don't understand. We're afraid to wield. We have power right now. We have the power to throw all kinds of sand in the gears. They're like, well, we're the minority. Yeah, but the minority has power. Because how do I know? Because the Republicans have been doing it time and time again. But for some reason, the Democrats are afraid to use that power. I mean, the ultimate example that was Schumer saying, well, we can't shut the government down. Chuck, you're not shutting the government down. The Republicans are shutting the government down. Use your power as a minority, and then hit the airwaves, hit the podcast, hit the radio shows, and say, we didn't shut it down. Republicans shut it down. But they're like, yeah, but we'll get blamed. It's like, dude, holy cow, just accept that you have a power. And maybe it makes you uncomfortable, but wield that power. And they don't. But again, the Republicans understand that bring a baseball bat to a gunfight, and we are constantly bringing like wiffle balls.
Exactly. I had Adam Kinzinger on last week before, something like that. Yeah. And he said it best. Democrats, do you want to be ideologically pure, or do you want to win?
Yeah. Right. And this is a battle. An existential battle for our nation at this point. And I get frustrated that it doesn't seem sometimes they seem to understand that we're in an existential battle for the soul of our nation. There's too much politics as usual, especially in the Senate, norms and traditions. And I've been saying for years, you got to toss that norms and traditions crap out. That stuff, that ship sailed when that big giant jug of lard came down the escalator. The norms and traditions are a waste of time. And without question, I will always, and people get super mad when I criticize Joe Biden. For some reason, you're not allowed to criticize Joe Biden. Joe Biden never understood that the norms and traditions weren't going to save us, that we need laws, we need prosecutions, we need actual punishment. And just being normal wasn't good enough. And here we are.
Yeah, and I cringe you mentioned Chuck Schumer. I cringe every time he goes to the mic.
Jesus.
Seriously, keep him off TV. He's have people on there that can go on TV and give a better picture than what he has.
Yeah. And I like Hakeem, but Hakeem is not a wartime leader, and we need wartime leadership. I think that's probably my latest. And I like Mr. Jeffries. I think he's done brilliant. He did a brilliant job in the minority last session. for some reason, this session just, again, they don't understand that we're in an existential crisis for our country. And the old ways of speaking in, flowery words and fucking haikus, pardon my language, damn haikus, doesn't work. We need people to fight. And you see that in these town halls. You see these in this protest. People are angry, and we want our leadership to reflect that in a very clear way. They understand that anger, and they're carrying that anger with them. And they just, this whole talk of, well, we're not going to swing at every ball. It's like, great. Swing at something. I mean, Jesus Christ, you're just watching the ball sail by. Like, it's like, okay,
We have Victoria Spartz.
Oh Lord, my goodness gracious,
she's making national news now for her. Her town halls
she's
over the weekend. And a lot of people here in Indiana are saying, give her credit, she showed up. And I'm like, no, give her no credit, because she knew exactly what she was getting. She knew exactly what she was there to do: create a shit show and fundraise off of it. Boom.
Get some clips, fundraise off it. She wanted to her goal was to be attacked and say, look, I'm being attacked. I'm a victim. Because, the Republicans in so many ways are like narcissists. If you've ever been in a relationship with a narcissist, it's like you're the hero or the victim, right? There's no in between, right? Mm-hmm. And they're masters at playing the victim. It's like, we do something terrible, people attack us for it. Oh, we're being attacked. I'm being attacked. I'm a victim. It's like, you're not, you did a terrible, terrible thing. You're being justifiably held accountable for doing terrible things. And now you're like crying like a baby. It's pathetic. It really is. It's exhausting.
Well, I wanted to cover, while we had you today, just the signal gate that's still lingering, if you will. And then immigration, which is front and center again today. But as Signalgate, is it winding down, or is it just getting started?
They'd like it to. They would like it to. But just last night, the Wall Street Journal had a story come out saying that this isn't the first time that we know this, right? But it was confirmed for the first time that Mike Waltz is regularly creating these signal groups. He actually created a signal group for peace in Ukraine. I mean, they're literally using Signal as their main communication. Now, that violates the Presidential Records Act. That's first and foremost. They are breaking the law once again. This isn't yes or no or maybe. Really are breaking the PRA very clearly. And then they're obviously breaking the Espionage Act because they're spilling intelligence data onto unsecured devices. We know. I mean, an example with the Signal chat, if you look at the list, do you notice that Marco Rubio added Marco Rubio? And that's because if you understand Signal, he's got one iteration of Signal on probably his government phone because they've authorized it. But then he added his personal. Right. So if you probably grab Marco Rubio's iPhone right now, he's got Signal discussing classified information. And these are the same guy in the same job where they cried for the last 9 years about Hillary Clinton having a freaking her own server in her basement. They're literally using unsecured iPhones to talk about national security issues. This is 10 times worse. So I think what you're seeing is, while the White House wants to move on, as they always do, the fact that Wall Street Journal got this confirmation, Waltz is squirming. You've got, over the weekend, you saw Pete Hegseth two stories came out of the weekend that were just devastating. He hired his brother to be DHS, and he's bringing his wife to classified meetings.
Yeah, just for the record, my wife is not sitting behind me during this.
Oh, great. Well, this isn't classified, but it's if you remember Madison Cawthorn, I call it getting Cawthorned. When you see this many drip stories, that means people feel empowered to drip them. And to leak them, and usually they're from Republicans. Right. And so I think both gentlemen are in trouble, which gives me great joy. I think that I believe in my heart that Hegseth is the worst Secretary of Defense in modern history. Horrible. Bar none. And I think that Mike Waltz is just a blithering idiot who has no respect. These are the same people who think that these are the same people that think I just got the funniest tweet. Somebody's impersonating me on TV, on Twitter. This is my life, by the way. These are the same people who say, oh, the troops, we love the troops, we love the troops. Oh, it's all about the troops. And then they're endangering lives in a very real way by using this. The idea that you don't think that having the target times, the actual types of aircraft and systems attacking and putting that out 2 to 3 hours before the actual attack is not endangering life. You have to be, the fact that they're trying to insist it's not is so outrageous. And what I find fascinating about the story, Gary, is they are so sure that veterans will hold with them and the military is theirs. They're very confident that, because all the polls tell them that veterans and military voted for them, they're so confident they think they can do almost anything and they won't lose veterans and military. And they've gotten away with a lot. But this one, talking to my friends who served and others, they're really pissed because you don't have to be, this is beyond politics. The idea that the leaders of several cabinets, to include ones that shouldn't even been, why the hell is the Treasury Secretary on this chat? Okay. Why is the Russian envoy on the chat? Okay. And the fact that they're just so casually just sharing classified intelligence that's only need to know. And now I had the wife of a service member on my show for VoteVets. I'm also the host of On the Line with VoteVets, which is a group, a veterans group.
Very familiar.
I had her on my show. VoteVets is great. I'm very proud to work with them. And she's a military spouse. Her husband's a pilot. And she went viral over the week because she was just screaming to her camera, like, what the hell's wrong with you? You literally are putting my husband's life in danger. So it can be convenient for you. You don't have to go to a skiff to talk, a secret, it's just ridiculous.
Now, so you think one or both of them will be gone soon? I don't think they will. I think it will be 6 months down the line, something very arbitrary, and they'll leave.
They'll find an excuse at some point.
I don't think Trump fires him because,
Well, Trump doesn't fire anybody, really.
Right.
He's afraid to fire, and he's not really in charge anymore. But I do think the pressure is built. They are susceptible for pressure. Okay. A lot of Democrats believe that these guys, they feel empowered. No, they're susceptible to pressure. They're feeling the pressure right now, and they don't like these protests. Trump, the thing you have to do have to remember, Trump, as much as he's really not in charge right now, he does not like looking bad. He does not like having the press come in to, kiss his ass with Kid Rock standing next to him.
Oh my
and the
God.
press is asking about Signal Gate. He doesn't like them asking about the soldiers who were lost that he never effing mentioned in a full week. He doesn't not like being embarrassed. It was with the Lincoln Project. One of my favorite ads we did at the Lincoln Project was when we went after Brad Parscale, who was, if you remember, people remember this, it was Trump's campaign manager at the time during the campaign. And Parscale was making millions of dollars. It was estimated he made $4 million off of Trump as his campaign manager and funneling money through his personal companies. And we did an ad that we literally targeted Trump and said, Donald, classic Rick Wilson ad. He's like, Donald, do you know that Brad's getting rich? He's laughing at you because and that we had pictures of Parscale in his cars, Parscale's 4 different houses he bought at that point, and his money, and according to the Washington Post after the campaign, he actually went into Parscale's office at the campaign headquarters and asked him, "Is this true?" And Parscale's like, "Heebity hobbity heebity." He got fired a week later. So Trump does not like being embarrassed, and so that's why it's us as an opposition. And again, our Democratic leaders need to really keep the pressure on him. As much as he wants to move on, you've got to keep asking him questions. You've got to keep pummeling him with bad press, saying, Donald, they're all making you look like a jackass, dude. You look like a fool. Like, who's really in charge? Donald, who's in charge? Is it Stephen Miller? And that makes him just spin out. And that's
today's
how you get
elections could add a little more pressure to it. I mean,
100%. I think they're going to get their ass kicked. I do.
In Wisconsin, and they're
Yep.
really worried about Mike Waltz's seat in Florida.
They should be, because the guy that ran, find out it's a jackass. I don't know. It's still Florida, but
Right.
but they're running a very terrible candidate, and he's got a track record of being just a rotten human being. Who knows? I mean, obviously, he's still got an R next to his name, but they should be scared. The fact they're even wondering after their they've convinced themselves they had a landslide. As much as that's a lie, they didn't. We know they didn't have a landslide, but he really believes that. So the thing about Trump you have to understand is he believes that. It's not him. He's not lying. People say he lies all the time. No. He's effing delusional. He believes that. He believes he won the election. He believes he has a mandate. That's the thing about Trump. If you wired Trump up to a lie detector, you'd never get him. He's not lying because he's a freaking sociopath. He believes this stuff.
Now, before we let you go today, I did want to touch on immigration because it did come out that one of the people deported to the El Salvadoran prison shouldn't have, they claim, an administrative mistake, but we can't return him.
Right. Yeah. And it's with no due process, with no true investigation, with no lawyers. Mm-hmm. They're just deporting people. And we have to understand what they're doing. They're sending people to an El Salvador prison, and they've made every excuse you can imagine. They keep saying things like, well, if he's innocent, the El Salvadorans will get rid of him. We're paying their dictator
$6 million,
like $6 million, and that's by body. Why on earth would he ship anyone out when he's getting paid? It's easy. He throws them in a cage, They throw, it's not costing him $25,000 a month, the whole house. You know what I'm saying? So it's a profit center for him. He's a dictator. And so we have to do so. And it's so simple. It's so simple to me that everyone has to understand America. All your listeners need to understand this. It doesn't matter if you're a citizen. When there's no due process, they can do whatever they want. And if they manage to get it far enough where you walk out without your wallet, okay?
Right.
And they grab you like that guy taking his garbage out. Say, oh, you're no, I'm not. I've got my ID. No, you're coming with us. Bundle you into a van, ship you to Louisiana, ship you to El Salvador. Before your lawyer even knows you're gone, well, too late. We didn't know you was a citizen. I mean, you look Latino. I mean, I fully expect them to show up at my door. And if citizens think they're going to be immune to that, they're delusional. That's the whole point of due process, to confirm these things, to find out why. The guy that you mentioned, the one they mentioned, was literally barred by a judge because he's wanted in El Salvador by that dictator. That was not a mistake.
No,
they grabbed that guy as part of our payment.
Right.
And it's sick.
That
this
name
is
came
dictator shit.
That name came about somehow to pick him up, and it came directly from El Salvador. I want this person.
100%. And the delusion, the mass delusion of among many of our fellow citizens to think they're going to be immune to this, or that it's not going to touch their lives, is ridiculous beyond belief. I mean, everyone will be touched, because it doesn't take much to become an enemy of the state when everybody's an enemy, and the power these people are using, and the glee with which ICE is doing it. I don't know if you heard the story of the woman who was trying to be legal, was working at a nursing home, I believe in Michigan, and was assaulted and reported to the police, as one does. And the Michigan police reported her to ICE, and ICE grabbed her off the street, broke her window of her car, pulled this 49-year-old mother of three, victim of a crime, out of her car through the window, injuring her, and shipped her off. They love this stuff. This is the shit I heard about in Iraq when I'm an Iraq veteran. My first tour in Iraq, of the three, I did civil affairs, hanging out with civilians right after the fall of Hussein. And these are the stories I heard about Saddam Hussein. This is the stuff that his guys would roll up in black SUVs, bundle the family off next door, and you didn't ask questions. We are there now. And that is terrifying.
It's stories you hear like in Chile or Argentina or
East
Nicaragua.
Germany, when we were growing up. You and I are old enough. East Germany, the Stasi. This is what they did. And all it takes is a tip. I did a piece last year. Look, let's say you own a painting company, right?
All right.
And you have a competitor. Super easy, man. Call the local constitutional sheriff, call the ICE, say, man, they've got at least 10 illegals at Billy Bob's painting company. Give them the address. They raid. They take all of Billy Bob's painting company's computers. They take whoever looks Latino. And guess what? Billy Bob's out of business, at least temporarily. Then you, be a good competitor, you let all his customers know that, hey, I don't know if you heard, but Billy Bob got raided. Let's say they release all 10 people. Doesn't matter. You just got rid of your competitor. That's what they did in Iraq. That's how they did in Iraq. I heard the stories. We are there, dude. I mean, honestly, I give it a month before one of those stories comes out that a company was raided because of a tip of their competitor.
And I don't know about you, but as a Democrat, as an American, I have no problem with them deporting dangerous gang members. But let's prove that they're a dangerous gang member.
That's why you have due process, right?
Exactly.
The barber with a crown tattoo, queen for his mom, king for his dad, one each arm. They said those were gang tattoos. Are you effing kidding me? And because of that is because of this. They've got an allocation. They have to meet their numbers, and so the Republicans have convinced themselves there's, I don't know, what is it now in their brain? 20 million illegal. I mean, and any given day, 1 billion illegals. I mean, who effing knows? So they create these fake numbers, and to meet the fake number, they create these fake, allocations they all have to get. And it's just like getting enough speeding tickets, right? They've got to arrest a shit ton of people. Well, and so these ICE guys are going to just scoop up anybody and say, well, it's an arrest, let God sort it out. And then they that would be bad. It'd be bad because at least maybe with the due process system, you could say, look, I'm a citizen. Okay, you're released. Now they've got the next level, which is, so you committed a crime, due process is out the window. It's just, we are in a very dark place. And not
it's funny you mentioned that, because Victoria Sparks in one of her town halls said, if you're arrested, you don't get due process.
Right. You don't get due process. That's
and we
terrifying. Yeah. That's the whole point. Those are the people who deserve it the most. Yeah. I'm not a big fan of any of these people.
No, not at all. And unfortunately, well, you live in Missouri, which is almost as bad as Indiana, maybe worse. I don't know. Maybe it's a coin flip.
In a lot of ways, yeah. Well, you heard they tried to put, they tried to put out, I don't know if you saw our guys try to pass, I think they may have, if you're being honest, is a law where $1,000 bounty on illegals, that if you report someone who's an illegal immigrant, that's my state senator. And it's like, oh my, this guy's from the suburbs. He's, it's just, sorry, I'm in anger, Fred, today. I apologize.
No, I appreciate it. I know you have other things to do, and we're going to let you go here in a second, but anything else you wanted to cover before we let you run?
No, I appreciate it. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk to you. I hope your listeners and followers and viewers will go over to my Substack, fpwellman.substack.com, or the On Democracy channel on YouTube, and check out our show. We have a great Sunday show now that isn't just politics. It's kind of, it's humor, it's laugh.
Oh, yeah.
I had Chris Titus on there. I've had comedians and actors, and as well as politicians like authors of books and political elected. So it's kind of a fun Sunday show compared to these others.
Two of my favorite interviews that I've done over the years. Number one, Henry Winkler, and number two, Duff McKagan from Guns N' Roses. So they weren't even political.
I had Glenn Burtnick on the other day, who's a Styx guitarist.
Okay.
And usually we do a panel with these actors. I had Heather Thomas on. She was hilarious. She was smoking the whole time. And she did her second cigarette. I'm like, Heather, what you all right? She goes, it's fucked up, Fred. It's just like, just great people. So yeah, we try to have a good time because, we're all going to lose our minds and we can't have a laugh about all this at some point. So I love my Sunday show. And of course, every Friday night on Democracy with FP Wellman's on the Midas Touch Network, which is the fastest growing pro-democracy channel and everywhere. It's on YouTube and everywhere. So I'm real proud.
And we'll put links below. But
thank you.
Before we let you go, we need to thank our sponsor, Robin Winston. Great sponsor of the newsletter, which goes out to over 100,000 subscribers daily. Wow. And also former Congresswoman Jill Long Thompson, author of Across the Aisle, Why Bipartisanship Works for America. I'm Gary Snyder. He's not. He's Fred Wellman. This is the Snide Report, and we're out.